Oh, hello. Do you have a copy of Behind the Showbiz Smile, My Secret Heartbreak by GRAHAM NORTON? Oh, you do? Marvellous. My name? Yes. It's G.R. Norton. Oh, just put it to one side. I'll send a man round. Thanks. Hello. Did you know that by the time we reach 35, we've seen 150,000 TV commercials? That's 75,000 minutes, or 2 months of your entire life. It all breaks down into 1 whole week fantasizing about fabric conditioner, 3.5 days ogling oven chips, and 1 very long afternoon of GRIFF RHYS JONES in an embarrassingly fake ginger beard. I mean, do you remember these?
Guess what I bought you?
How much are these made for condoms?
Do you want a flake in that, love?
I love it.
After a good workout, Nick. Oh! God.
If you see Sid, tell him.
Happiness is easy.
Oh, shut up! You know who?
No, not Nickel.
I think you'll agree, they're great. Well, you must do, because they were some of the 100 greatest ads ever shown on British TV, as decided upon by the first ever public poll of its kind. Yes, thousands upon thousands of Channel 4 viewers and newspaper readers took part and voted for their favourite TV ads. But ads don't just exist in a shaken vacuum. They really do reflect the story of 20th century Britain. So, over the next 2.5 hours, we'll be delving into the stories behind some of those mini-historical masterpieces, as memorable as the programmes they so rudely interrupted.
I can't tell the difference between Wizzo butter and this dead crab.
Yes, you know, we find that 9 out of 10 British housewives can't tell the difference between Wizzo butter and a dead crab.
Hey, it's nice to find somebody who hasn't chosen Stalk SB. Can I ask you why?
It's just that it tastes better.
Would you like to take part in the taste test?
Oh, yes, certainly would, yes.
The Stalk campaign with the Vox Pops featuring Leslie Crowther were fantastically successful in their day.
What Sheila's going to do now is to spread 2 pieces of bread, one with the margarine of your choice, and the other with Stalk SB.
He did go into supermarkets and he did sort of start chatting up women in the aisles about their margarine, which is a pretty bizarre thing to do. And it hadn't really been done that way before.
Give it a taste, give it a whirl. Right.
So it was a very cost-efficient campaign and a very successful campaign. And in a sense, it sort of relished in its own cheesiness. But the problem is nowadays, you know, you have got a much more cynical audience than in those days. And, you know, the first question that would be going through people's heads, I suspect, nowadays is how much are those people paid?
Take that one there.
Why?
Tastes a lot better than the other one.
It's the other one you've been eating all this time. But it's got to be Stalk SB from now on, isn't it?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
You try that around here, young man, and we'll slit your face. Yeah.
Mill workers used to call Yorkshire Terriers the sideboard or chest of drawer dog.
What are you people like out there? Top voters or pedigreed chumps? Whatever. Some of you wanted another chance to see a lot of mad, hairy rats having their dinner at number 99.
Terrier and the tiny type that she's known to be.
Flying attack squadrons off his carrier deck. Landing a helicopter strike force. Counting down to blast off for the moon. To a boy and his Meccano, all things are possible.
When you look at the Meccano ads now, they are quite interesting in that they remind you of a more innocent age when a young lad could think of nothing more exciting to be than to be involved in the sexy and glamorous world of civil engineering.
A boy and his Meccano turns a boy's world into a man's world.
But in a kind of post-Liam Gallagher, David Beckham age, it doesn't really seem to have that much glamour to it.
Make hundreds of rugged working models.
It's one of those things where, of course, the toys have got much better, and you try and get interest a kid today with a few quarter-inch screws, and quite rightly they'll say, "Oh, get lost. Can't we have the internet instead?" And I think they'd be right.
Meccano. Now you can start being an engineer even younger.
This little foot will get corns and bunions if a shoe's too tight across here. So
This ad at number 97 shows how times have changed. It picked up award after award back in the 1970s. These days, it's more likely to get the ad makers a visit from the NSPCC. That poor child was probably scarred for life.
These are our shoes.
I don't know about you, but I do love a baby shab. Makes quite a nice mixer. But now, while I take care of these fellas, why don't you have a one-to-one with one of Britain's leading comedy thespians? Yes, we caught up with that fine comic actor Peter Kay during a rare break from rehearsal on his latest TV production.
Just doing this, Dougie. 5 minutes.
Jim, when you were completely great, you did look much older.
Ultra bright gets you noticed.
I'd like to introduce you to a new kind of hostess.
Spread basic slang.
I was a victim of advertising, definitely. I think it's difficult not to be lured in by the lies of the adverts when you're a kid.
He's sensational!
Very tempting at Christmas as well, with wall-to-wall toy ads for wobbling weebles and wrist races.
Afternoon, Willie. Have you seen my new animals? Oh, look, Granny. They wobble just like us.
Oh, yeah, you succumb to the pressure. It's unbearable.
$6 million man, ready to operate and command. Control his amazing lifting strength. See through his wide-angle bionic eye.
And revving up for action, here's our star. What a jump!
Lies! Oh, lies. Who had a desert? Nobody I knew.
He's Evel Knievel.
All I had for Jumpo was a poof in the front room and my dad's slippers when he was asleep.
Betty Ann Knitter, the ideal Christmas gift.
My family loved unbeatable bargains.
This knife is really dull. K-Tel Majestic Sharpener sharpens your knives this fast and easy way. A new multi-purpose opener. Easily adjusts to open all size jar tops.
Useless, all of it. Crap. You didn't need it.
Stop littering. Some of those empty bottles can be valuable.
That's not littering. That's violence.
K-Tel Bottle Cutter.
I can't begin to describe the hours of fun we had turning a Nuki Brown bottle into a vase.
As a drink tumbler or a vase, even a unique ashtray.
I do remember the hours we spent in Casualty on Mother's Day when my nana's mouth cut to ribbons because my dad had tried to make her an handy drinking cup.
Now, another tumbler to add to your match set.
Then he tried making it up to my nan by buying her a Shackleton's high-seat chair.
It's grand to find a comfortable chair when you're getting on a bit or you've got arthritis. My niece got this from Shackleton's, you know. Shackleton's original high seat. They'd over 100 chairs to choose from.
They had 96 left when my dad had finished. He bought one for the whole family, bought one each. They were great for your back.
Introducing K-Tel's Hair Magician.
And if my dad was gadget man there, my mum was hygiene appliance freak.
By just combing, it will trim and taper longer hair, cut and taper shorter hair, quickly and safely.
But it saves us a fortune at the hairdressers, Peter. I'd say, but it hurts. You know, and it hurts even more going to school looking like John Mills in Ryan's Daughter.
Teenagers can now have the latest cuts in only minutes with K-Tel Hair Magician.
This is a wig. This...
Do you find brushing clothes tiresome? Well, here's your answer.
Brush-O-Matic, very, very clever piece of equipment, that.
Cleans upholstery in the home and car quickly.
The way you could brush all that dog hair back onto your coat if need be.
To clean, simply brush backwards. Lasts for years.
A finger of fart is just enough to give your kids a treat.
My favourite adverts, sing-along adverts.
A finger of fart is just enough until it's time to eat.
It's full of Cadbury goodness and very small and neat.
A finger of fart is just enough to give your kids a treat.
Dougie, are you on? Ready for me now? Sorry. I've lost 22 pounds since I bought this, and I haven't felt like eating once. It's the Vibrate. You lose weight body belt, and it's a steal for only $21.99 from K-Tel. Took me arse, this, Andre. Not funny, Marjorie.
Take 1 pallet of Sainsbury's strawberries and...
Back to the chart now. And if a Mr. Michael Douglas is watching tonight, the good news is your future wife sorted out the pudding.
Irresistible.
There's a fragrance that's here today, and they call it Charlie.
It was this incredibly naff, cheap scent
that was so huge during the 70s, probably on the back of shows like Charlie's Angels. You know, that's probably where it got its name from.
Charlie!
Everybody wanted to be Farrah Fawcett.
Kinda young, kinda now, Charlie. Kinda free, kinda wow, Charlie.
You kind of imagined that it would be the sort of perfume she wore until you smelt it and realised that it smelt like old lady's wee.
Kind of fragrance that's gonna stay, and it's here now, Charlie.
Old lady's wee? Come on, wearing Charlie's bound to lead to a good life. Talking of which, here's Penelope Keith at number 94.
Young ladies, your final and most important lesson. How to spend Daddy's lovely money. Checkbooks open, girls? Pens at the ready? No, 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 Felicity. You couldn't possibly go shopping in Knightsbridge with one of those. A pen with style, a pen with élan, a Parker Lady in white rolled gold. Knots just seem to roll from its tip. Signatures flow with a flourish. Now then, all together, girls. Yes, Celia?
Madame, does one spell pence with an S or a C?
I don't think you need worry about that, my dear.
At number 93, those marketing men at Timex were bootlegging the Beatles while Oasis were still in nappies. Pity they went and made all the watches upside down. Britain's first ever ad from the opening night of ITV in 1955 is at number 92 in our chart.
It's Gibbs SR toothpaste, the tingling fresh toothpaste that does your gums good too.
There was a little party in my flat because not everybody had television. They came to watch television that first night, and of course we were absolutely amazed when, oh, there's ours, oh, it's our ad.
The tingle you get when you brush with SR is much more than a night's taste. It's a tingle of health.
I remember my boss and friend saying, I think you're crazy, Brian, it'll never be a major medium. I think people thought it might be just a flash in the pan or take a very long time to get going.
It tells you something very important, that you're doing your gums good and toughening them to resist infection.
You must remember that advertising, it was seemed very new and very strange and rather American, and it seemed a great pity that we were going to have to pay for watching television programs by having to put up with advertising. And somehow the feeling was that it wasn't quite for you.
The tingle in SR comes from sodium ricinoleum.
We had this press campaign, and we needed to translate it into television and to make it move and to make it real in visual terms.
Tingling fresh
the first couple of shots were done with a real block of ice, but when we got into close-up, it would have been too misty shooting through the ice, so we in fact were shooting through a block of plastic.
And brush with SR, the tingling fresh toothpaste for teeth and gums.
At number 91, it's Arthur Daly himself, George Cole, getting into a bit of Barney rubble while moonlighting as a spy in Istanbul. Where's Dennis Waterman when you need him?
Cigars from Benson and Hedges.
When the Italians aren't waving their hands around, they're waving their food around.
Alan Wicker, that great travelling documentary man, toured the world for Britain and Barclaycard back in the 80s. Angus Dayton must have still been searching for his passport.
People have written to me, or to be honest, one man has sent me a postcard saying, if this new stuff is so beneficial to dogs and full of meaty goodness, why doesn't Henry look more lively on it? Why doesn't he bound about and wag his tail? Well, Henry's got a very alert mind.
A double diamond works wonders, works wonders, works wonders. A double diamond works wonders, so drink one today.
The Strand commercial was made in 1959 using a young actor called Terence Brooke, and his character was actually modelled on Frank Sinatra in Pal Jerry, very popular movie at the time. And the idea was this lone individual moving through the mean streets of London, full of shadows and sort of sleazy bars where it was always 4 o'clock in the morning. Very much an American idiom. And this became an enormously popular commercial. I mean, people would wait for the next strand of the Strand commercial to come out. The problem with it was it actually didn't move any packets of cigarettes. And the post-mortem's conclusion was that people missed the message. The message was,
you're never alone with a strand.
They saw it as, you're always alone with a strand. And whilst they were intrigued by the character, they couldn't identify with the character. Remember, 1959 was an enormously conformist era in British social history. It was only 14 years after the war had ended. People didn't want to step outside society. They wanted to be very much a part of society.
People didn't want to be thought of, to be alone, I suppose. The concept just didn't happen. But it sold thousands of records. And this is before the days when commercials were transferred into the pop market. This was the very first one. And I went into the studio and did a 3-minute version of it. And it went into the hit parade, believe it or not. So, although it wasn't good for Strand, it was good for me.
You're never alone with a strand. The cigarette of the moment.
Just one application removes all traces of blood, sweat, tears, gravy, egg, and embarrassing understains. Oh, what a weekend that was, eh? Oh, do excuse me while I do a bit of much-needed spring cleaning. I'll be right back after the break. Do the shaking,
This perfect picture of product placement. You know, a lot of people ask me if I was truly wafted here from paradise. And I say, no. Birmingham International Airport. Luton was fog-bound. Never mind. Time for takeoff again. Even before the Falklands and the miners' strike, we couldn't let Maggie go. In this instance, the Maggie in question wasn't a basket case, but model Emily Jones. Strange place to have a picnic, I always thought. The waiter service must be terrible.
Only 40 calories a slice, or less.
Going back a few years, when punters knew a bit about beer. If it weren't a pint of best, that's when you'd hear the strange protest.
Dave Trott, my writer at the time, spent an evening on the Isle of Dogs in a pub.
With your lemon in a slice.
And he came back the next morning with a tape of this couple of pub entertainers called Chuz and Dave.
Good, you little, you know what I mean? It just means get out of it. It's just a good word. We wrote it just to make our families sort of laugh, I think, at the time.
Well, it came from the song, really, the idea. We were trying to sell the beer as a traditional old beer, just like it was in the 30s. And they got spit and sawdust on the floor and, you know, old caps. And we tried not to glamorise it. We tried to shoot it as if it had been shot in the 30s.
Now, I'm going back a few years, when partners knew a bit about beer.
It's only 30 seconds long, but it's one single take.
We brought in a very well-known black and white feature lighting cameraman called Robert Krasker, who was in retirement, to do it. We wanted really meticulous black and white lighting. He was a man who had lit The Third Man for Carol Reed.
He was in his 70s, and he came back onto the set with his jodhpurs, and he didn't have a whip, but it was that kind of feeling.
And he took all morning, I mean, into the afternoon, to light it. We had one day to shoot it.
When I arrived on the set, I thought it was awful. You know, every person had about 10 shadows around them, and it looked awful. When we saw it in black and white on the rushes, it looked fantastic. So he really knew what he was doing.
Body glasses with a little piece of ice. Anything that comes with lemon in a slice. Fancy cocktails that are shaken and not stirred. Drinks with cherries in that make you look absurd. With your finger cocked to leave your friends impressed. Anything that ain't a pint of courage best. Mine's a pint of best.
Can there have been a more homoerotic 40 seconds ever in the history of British television? There's a lot of towel flicking, there's a lot of uncomfortable looking, joshing with each other, knocking each other around. It's a boiling, boiling sea of homoeroticism. I can't believe it got past.
Good workout today, Henry. And after a good workout, nothing beats a great smell of Britain. Here, you try the muscle on my act. Yeah, why don't you throw the towel, Henry? Good. Fruit 33, the deodorant with muscle.
What is Cointreau?
Cointreau? Inimitable chef-d'œuvre. Literally a masterpiece that cannot be equaled. D'équilibre entre la vivifiante, a delicate balance between the living warmth of the spirit. You follow?
Oh, yeah.
And les vertus amères des oranges mûries. How you say? And the bitter virtues, yes, of oranges ripened under the tropical sun. Voila, that is Cointreau.
I'm going well, I'm going Shell.
Good heavens, I know that voice.
I'm going well on Shell, Shell, Shell.
It's Bing Crosby.
Britain is great, well, let's see it in state. You can be sure of Shell.
Bring me home some...
The first known case of pester power is at number 81. Indeed, the authorities thought this ad so dangerous that Rowntree's had to change the slogan from "Don't forget the fruit gums, Mom" to "Don't forget the fruit gums, Chum."
Don't forget the fruit gums, Mom.
Throughout this programme, we're bringing you the 100 greatest ads ever shown on British TV. But what about those classics that had the bad manners to be made and shown abroad?
We sent perky Caledonian minx GAIL Porter around the world in 180 seconds to take a global view of some classic ads you won't have seen. Well, unless you're Alan Wicker.
When it comes to our favourite TV ads, we Brits stick to our own. Sure, we've had flings with fancy foreigners like those smoothies, Victor KIAM, and the Italian ambassador. But on the whole, we are a nation of Smash fans and Yorkie lovers. But we are not the only ones capable of making fantastic commercials. Yanks do it, Swedes do it, even Finns and Japanese do it. We just don't get to see most of them.
Okay, unit travel plans. I need to be in New York on Monday, LA on Tuesday, New York on Wednesday, LA on Thursday, New York on Friday. Got it? Got it. Got it. So you want to work here? What really makes you think you deserve a job here?
Well, sir, I think I like it. I'm good at figures and have a sharp mind.
Excellent. Can you start on Monday?
Yes, sir, absolutely, without hesitation.
Congratulations. Welcome aboard. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And in conclusion, Jim, Bill, Bob, call, Fred, Load, Dork, 8 up and 10. Congratulations on your deal in Denver, Dave. I'm putting you down to deal with Dallas. Don, is it a deal? Do we have a deal? It's a deal. I gotta go. I got a call coming in.
ナショナルネオハイトップ高層ビルに挑戦。
This death-defying and very slow climb up a skyscraper in Osaka was so popular with Japanese kids in the 1980s that shops sold hundreds of thousands of models of that diminutive, incontinent firefighter. To you and me, this means brown bread, bikes, flat caps and tickant bread tit Duppet world. But ask TV viewers in Spain what it reminds them of, and they'll tell you a shaggy dog story. This ad for Spanish telly made a star of a pooch called Pippin, and after this award-winning performance, he turned his paws to literally hundreds of TV ads, a sort of canine Carol Vorderman, if you will.
If your best friend leaves home, it may be because you're watching too much television. Learn to watch television sensibly.
Now, the only ad you might expect those Eurovision flops, the Norwegians, to be good at is one for the new Fjord Escort. Well, I'd give this example of the Norwegian ad man's art a lot more than nul point. Despite challenges from around the world, America is the undisputed heavyweight champion of TV commercials. And that's no surprise when you consider TV advertising began in America eons ago, when buying Charlie still meant a trip to Boots perfume counter, and Maureen from driving school was applying for her provisional license.
All right, now let's see if we can find first. No, that's not it. Believe me, it's in there somewhere. Turn left.
I can't do it while you're watching me.
Okay, turn left. How does it feel the first time out in traffic, Mr. Moss? Mr. Moss? Mr. Moss?
Should I turn the windshield wiper on?
At this point, it looks like the rebels are going to outlast the teachers.
And now, back to those 100 greatest TV ads. And at number 80, it's Ben, Mary, and some burger envy.
Hello. My name's Mary.
At that point in time, no one was going further than London to actually cast commercials.
A floppy taste of my beef burgers for a taste of yours. If yours are the same as mine, there's no point.
And everybody was always middle class and handsome and everything. And we thought we should take it into a different area. And I think that during that period of us desperately trying to break the middle class, beautiful teeth mould of commercials, we went to Leeds, and I finally found those kids actually in a regular, normal school.
I've brought a little friend to see you, isn't he lovely? Sit, Rebel. Sit. Oh, look, Ben. Want spicy beef burger? You'll have to want. Oh, go on. I sometimes sneak him a piece at our house. Ah, but your man's beef burger's a different kettle of fish.
To suddenly hear a Yorkshire accent coming out of a little kid in a commercial was totally and utterly unique. It's pretty silly now when you think how normal it is, but in those days it was a complete and utter breakthrough.
Are you coming to my party tomorrow, then? Can't I play football? But we're having your favourites, then. Beef burgers. Well, I've got enough beef burgers. Ben, your beef burgers are getting cold. Well, except for the ones my mum buys.
Guten Tag, ich bin mein Frau diesen Remington Microscreen geschenkt hat. Ich war so beeindruckt. Das ist die Firma gekauft habe.
Hello. I like this Remington Microscreen rechargeable shaver so much, I bought the company. It shaves as close as a blade, or I'll give you your money back.
First of all, I tried it. I flipped over it. I had no idea that it shaved as close as it did.
Introducing the new Remington Microscreen Ultimate with the exclusive beard lifter.
I said to myself, I'm going to run a worldwide marketing campaign. We're going to come up with the best one. One of the agency guys, after he comes, they came out of a deep thought process. He said, you know, that's not a bad idea, and we'll get Kevin Keegan to do it. I said, well, who's going to believe that Kevin Keegan walked off the street and bought a company like Remington? I said, if we're going to do it, the only person who can do it is me. I like the product so much. I bought the company.
To get a really close shave from a blade or electric, you have to stretch your skin. Until now, the Remington Microscreen rechargeable shaver shaves as close as a blade or your money back.
I ended up doing the commercials in all the languages of the countries that we went to. And people would say, do you speak the language? I said, no. They said, how could you do it? I said, well, I can't do it unless I try.
Hello.
Bonjour. J'étais toujours un dévoté de rasoir à lame, jusque ma femme m'a donné le rasoir électrique Remington. Konnichiwa, watashi ga Remington microshine shave-ta, tai-en kiriri, kaishiwo, kayatori-mashita.
That's very nice, thank you. I can't smile, everybody, please, smile. Waste of time if you haven't taken a light reading.
That's all right. This Olympus is completely automatic. It works out the light, and you just click the shutter.
Oh, it's okay for snaps, but just you try and enlarge them. You see, the trouble with these small cameras is the lens.
No problem. There's a Seiko lens. They use it on the Olympus OM1, one of the best cameras in the world.
Well, I suppose they're all right for you boys, but you wouldn't get a professional using one.
Do you know who that is?
Who?
David Bailey.
David Bailey? Who's he?
The Olympus trip. So simple, anyone can use it.
It was quite difficult to take eggs seriously. I mean, I remember sitting round a board table and all these rather powerful men in suits. So all sitting round, cluck, 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 little chicken there, little egg for me. I haven't had one since Easter, and I want one for my tea, and I would laugh, and they hated you laughing, you see.
Eggs is cheap.
We were using well-known figures, and somebody had the idea of asking Tony Hancock to present an egg commercial.
I sold me soul. I've been bought.
Advertising was considered as really very vulgar and really rather low, and if you were reduced to doing it, especially as somebody, an actor or a well-known person, it was seen as rather a disgrace, and he certainly felt it as such, and I felt just terribly sorry somehow asking him to do it.
Owing to the present state of the theatrical profession, I have with great reluctance been forced to accept a job as a supporting actor to a lady doing a commercial for eggs. Here she is now.
I find as his housekeeper, eggs is easy.
Just as well with her cooking them.
Oh, yes, there's a lot more goodness in eggs than people realise. Happiness is egg-shaped.
Pardon?
Happiness is egg-shaped.
Get a bit of glamour in, they said. Dear, oh dear.
Happiness is egg-shaped.
This year, thousands of you will have to travel to your business meetings in weather like this. Why risk driving?
People said that it was preposterous what I was doing, and you know, I'd never achieve any success. No one would give me any work. At the time, it was a disaster for me and I was like a failure, and I was like I think I was about, you know, 32 or something at the time, and I remember standing on the platform at Piccadilly Circus and looking at the railway line and considering throwing myself on it. I got this phone call from a very successful copywriter, and he said, look, I've got this script for you. I think he was doing it out of the charity of his heart, really, or he just thought that if I give it to this bloke, he's going to work like night and day on doing something here.
On the train.
Anytime you choose, take off your shoes, rest your weary eyes, or catch up with the news. Our favorite book will be a perfect company to rely.
I shot, I don't know, like 100,000 feet of film, which was, I had no idea what I was doing, to be perfectly honest, at the time. And, well, I knew what I was doing. I was just making damn sure that this was going to be a fantastic, successful thing. To me, it was a good exercise in putting authentic-looking people in front of the camera, but showing them in an artistic way.
Loosen up your tie.
There was a very heavy voiceover on the original script talking about British Rail and about what they were trying to do and all this kind of stuff, and I thought that you know, that the whole thing should be a kind of a mood.
Loosen up your tie, watch the world speed by. Run.
What's the matter, Dad? At number 75, it's the chocolate bar that thinks it can make you a managing director, an expert in meditation, or some sort of world champion athlete.
That helps you work, rest, and play.
A bar today helps you work, rest, and play.
You see, I was standing outside my mouse hole the other day, when all of a sudden, along comes this cat. So quick as a flash, I turned into a dog. Ruff, ruff. But the cat turned into a dragon, so I turned into a fire engine. How's that? and then he turned into a submarine. So I became a submarine-eating kipper. I said a kipper, not a slipper. Thank you very much. But he turned into an anti-kipper ballistic missile. So I turned into a missile cruncher. Crunch, 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 crunch. Just in time to see him change into a very, very big elephant. So do you know what I did then? I turned back into a mouse, and I gave him the threat of his life. Just like that.
How long do you practice every day?
I can't leave until I'm happy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I hit from there to up here, so actually I turn the ball a bit.
There's nothing better than when you, well, you all know, you know, when you hit a sweet one.
Oh, that's big.
Nearly hit the dog. Sorry. Sometimes they dip though. Unbelievable, last minute.
Oh, still picking that one out there.
No, it's not happy.
Oh. Sorry.
Pick that corner, top left. That's more like it. It's better than me.
Welcome back from our enforced break. Were there any modern classics in those 3 minutes of pleasure? Any zeitgeist-defining moments? Any post-Barthesian semiotics? Or was it just Neil Morrissey larking about in some superstore? Never mind, time to check out the next ad in our top 100 list.
Murray Mints, too good to hurry mints.
Treat yourself to Murray Mints, the too good to hurry mints.
I couldn't wash up without my fairy liquid.
Long before she was with men behaving badly, Leslie Ash was behaving very sweetly indeed with Mummy in the kitchen. Hands that do dishes is at number 72. Haven't these people heard of a dishwasher?
Here's your bottle back.
Thank you.
It's lovely for Skittles.
It's lovely for hands, too.
Now hands that do dishes can feel soft as your face with mild green fairy liquid.
We got lots of phone calls from people wanting the spot for various reasons, usually colleges and universities. But the most interesting was from a chap who was up for trial at the Old Bailey, and he wanted a copy of the ad to use in his defence. We never heard whether he got off or not.
It was probably the most intelligent commercial I've ever been involved in. And the Guardian was saying, look, you know, we can give it to you this way, we can give it to you that way, but, you know, we let you make up your own mind. We were using rubber bricks, and some thugs from the buildings that we were shooting in got hold of these bricks, and they started to throw them at passers-by, and there was all sorts of commotion, and the police, and I mean, it was just like a nightmare, but the commercial turned out pretty good.
An event, seen from one point of view, gives one impression. Seen from another point of view, it gives quite a different impression. But it's only when you get the whole picture you can fully understand what's going on.
Baby, I will... Believe it or not, this groovy bear was inspired by Jack Nicholson and Easy Rider. Honest. Cresta is at number 70.
I bought a hurricane. It's Friday, man.
As a kid, I would pester my mum to buy Cresta just because of the ad, and in spite of my actual disgust with the product. It was undrinkable, really. It was an awful kind of textured drink. It was like baby food mixed with Andrew's liver salts. It had a horrible kind of awful kind of chemical feeling as it went down your throat, but it was great colours. It was really bright colours, and it had the cool bear.
Here's one bear that just can't get enough. Frothy man.
It was bold and it was different and it was outrageous. But as a result of it, everyone thought they could do something great.
You kind of knew that it was going to really kind of freak people out. It's like when we saw Lenny come out of the Winnebago with his nipple clamps on, it was like, oh. People, the old cliches, you're driving along and a kid steps out in front of you, and you have to, that's the time when you really need your tyres. You have to swerve around and avoid the kid. So we thought, take that kind of cliche and put it into a completely different context.
When I work, I kind of plan everything out, and then I kind of throw it all away. There I was standing on a bridge with a piano that had just been driven by some, you know, Plusian brother of mine, and I decided I just thought it was only natural that we should throw the piano off the bridge. Yeah, and we did it, and it, you know, thankfully, due to the laws of gravity, you know, you throw the thing in the air, and it kind of, and it flies down, and it, you know, landed roughly where, you know, we thought it might land. I was trying to pretend that I was an artist, and I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll take the Dunlop commercial, and I'll take it outside the Tate gallery, and I'll just ask people, well, what do you think of that? Do you think it could potentially be inside the gallery?
It's an ad that wants to be arty, that wants to be deep. And it's like Charlie Parker playing with strings. You know, he just misunderstood his genius. Ad makers shouldn't want to be Hamlet. You know, that's the really point. You know, really good ad makers, we should sort of honour. What we shouldn't expect them is to be able to write Shakespeare.
I see films like that as like a creative sacrifice, that other better films will get made elsewhere, and some people have to, you know, run across the minefield and get a little bit injured so that others can traipse in their footsteps.
Yes, lass.
Garibaldi's, please.
The Tell Sid campaign, which is about selling shares, is, of course, very much of the 80s, because the 80s was about privatization, and therefore you wanted to get people to buy shares in things like British Gas. Now, the way you did that, of course, was to sell the idea that you weren't selling this to big corporations and so on. You were selling them to the little people.
If you see Sid, tell him, will you?
So what you do is you make your British Gas privatization ad as far away from the city as possible. You set it somewhere in the fictional Highlands and Islands.
If you see Sid, will you tell him that?
And there you have a whole set of very positive little people. You never know who Sid is. It's just kept open-ended in that way, which makes it a very clever advertisement, but actually, I think, an advertisement which was a long way from the truth.
How long are you staying?
About a week. What the advert is saying, this is fine, this is lovely, this is homely. This is not. What it actually was about was making fat cats very rich.
To be in by 10 a.m. on the 3rd of December.
Well, best be off then, love.
If you see Sid, will you tell him?
Aye.
Super Trinitron wide. Be careful what you watch.
You don't smell a mess of coffee. You don't smell a mess of coffee. He loves cheese boxing balls. He loves cheese boxing balls. He's an representative. He's an A-born representative.
Hello, Tosh, got a Toshiba? Hello, Tosh, got a Toshiba? That's an FST. Right. That's an FST. Right. It's the flattest, squarest tube. It's the flattest, squarest tube. They ain't half built well. They ain't half built well. Of course, every Toshiba component is stronger to last longer. Know what I mean? That's good. That's good. Hello, Tosh, got a Toshiba? Hello, Tosh, got a Toshiba?
Ahoy there, mates! Anyone partial to bird's eye fish fingers? Take hold! Captain Birdseye! Help yourselves, me hearties, while I have a word with your mum. Captain Birdseye's the name.
They chose about 20 of us and sent us down to the Cutty Sark, and we didn't have a bed, which I didn't. They stuck one on. And I came to the edge of the gangway, and you had to ahoy and a har and har and all that rubbish. Well, I had two rules for myself. Stay out of the sun for as long as possible, because you had to stand in the blaze, the full blaze of the sun, and stay away from the children, because children are merciless. If I sat down, I always felt my back to see if there was a notice on the back to say kick me or something.
So, give them bird's eye cod, fish fingers. Hey, shipmates! They're the ones.
You know whose tonic water has the secret of shh. Pour it. See how its strength bursts to the top of the glass. Taste it. The difference is almost frightening.
There was a series called Top Secret, which was set in South America. It was pre-Bond, it was pre-Avengers. I was a British agent to help deal with corruption and espionage that was going on. And out of that, Schweppes grew. We were left alone to get on and shoot commercials for 8 or 9 years.
Some people serve the strangest tonic water. Only you know whose tonic water has the secret of shh.
Nobody researched anything. There were no, I use this next word very carefully, focus groups.
And the good manners not to spoil good gin. It must have been something he ate.
The parrot was a stuffed parrot. I thought I'd mention that for those who think, did they kill a parrot for that?
I've pounded the road from coast to coast, Yorkie and me rolling on.
According to people who claim to know about these things, the Yorkie ads are supposed to be revolutionary. This was the first time chocolate had been marketed at men. I don't know if that can be true. What had men eat before that for a snack? They can't have just always had like raw meat.
Good, rich and thick, a milk chocolate brick.
But certainly what looks antiquated about it now is its conception of the lorry driver as this amiable, cheery knight of the road, you know, chewing on his chocolate bar instead of high cholesterol, bacon and egg at 4 o'clock in China Richard services and amphetamines to keep him awake and worse. And there's no road rage in it. He's looking very calm and obviously his lorry's full of Yorkies rather than you know, an entire family of Romanian gypsies that he's bringing over to avoid the terrible political system.
So when I still that big old mill, there's plenty more in store for me from that chunky bar of mine.
Roundtree's Yorkie, chunky milk chocolate.
Beware the Judderman, my dear, when the moon is fat. Sharp of tongue and spindle-limbed he is, and cunning. With sweetened talk of schnapps and meds, and the deliciousness of judders. By
Such schnapps, though sweet, has teeth, my love, and sharpened ones at that. Beware that other man, my dear, when the moon is fat. Jatherpatia meds och schnapps.
Well, that'll do nicely for this part. Coming up, more ad madness. And be prepared for a tense, nervous headache as we continue to count down the nation's favourite TV ads. We'll be back quicker than a quick fit fitter after these attempts at manipulative brainwashing. What do you mean the production team's got hold of that ad? Look, that's not fair. I was unemployed at the time. Why else would I agree to dress up as a chicken? Look, you tell them I'm off this show if they so much as try to... Hello again.
The British Airways face ad was all in the preparation, in the rehearsal of the people, all the kids we used. We shot it in Utah, in the desert state of America. We had a fantastic organizer for moving people around, somebody who does all the Olympic Games. You know, there's all those things, those movements, crowd movements in stadiums. So she's like a dancer.
50 steps. Now going 50 steps, everybody. 50 steps. Just keep it moving. Going up the beach. Keep going. The back and lower lip needs to tighten up. Shape looks good now. They just really need to concentrate on maintaining the shape. And from left to right.
The credit goes to the people who are forming the face, not to me, or to the pilot, or to the cameraman. It goes to those kids. They're all school kids from local schools, that they were able to actually form a face, form an eye, wink, and form the earth, all out of rehearsal.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Bend over with your arms at your sides.
Get up in the morning, saving for breakfast, so that every mouth can be fed. Oh, the Israelite. My wife and my kids get back up and leave me. Darling, she said I was yours to receive. Oh, the Israelite.
We're snap, crackle, and pop, so rise and shine, right crispy fine. Come on the run and join the fun with Kellogg's Breakfast Musketeers. Now all together let's give 3 rousing cheers. Hooray, hooray! Kellogg's Rice Krispies the top. They snap, they crackle, they pop.
Every year, the Schmidts, the Mullers, and the Reinhardts drive to their holiday villas. The Schmidts' car is slow and rather noisy, so when they arrive, they'll need another holiday to get over this one.
Audi were taking something of a risk by emphasising the Germanic qualities of their cars in that campaign, and had they made the advertisements 5 years earlier, or certainly 10 years earlier, I think they would have aroused a lot of anger and a lot of sort of hysteria in the media about this Germanic notion of their cars.
The Mullers drive a big, thirsty car, which is probably at a petrol station somewhere between Munich and Marbella.
But at the time the advertisement was produced, I think anti-German feeling had really disappeared very largely, at least gone well below the surface for the majority of people. And so what we could admire then was the mechanical excellence.
The Reinhardts drive an Audi 100, a car so aerodynamic that it's capable of 125 miles per hour.
We do have this notion about German engineering and everything from cameras that they are the best, and therefore by emphasizing the Germanic quality of the car, they were emphasizing the fact they probably had the best engineering in the world.
And the moral of the story is, if you want to get on the beach before the Germans, you better buy an Audi 100. Vorsprung durch Technik, as they say in Germany.
So the cold Hofmeister is sliding down like a dream. when this girl comes up and asks me what I do. So I tell her I'm a dispensing chemist, which really impresses her for a bear.
I got my inspiration from the Fonz in Happy Days. He used to walk around and go, hey! He was Mr. Cool. So we decided to turn the bear into an English version of the Fonz.
There is no greater test for the sportsman than the modern pentathlon, the javelin.
The little man inside the bear was a Hungarian dwarf. He was only 4'6" or something, tiny. And he had this wonderful walk, sort of swaggering walk, which was perfect for us. So we put him inside the suit, and the walk you see is his walk. He used to walk like that, quite naturally.
And so I found companionship. Trouble 24 to finish you to chalk.
You always had people drinking in numbers. You never have a guy on his own. That seemed to be a loner, and that's against the rules for a beer ad. Also, you never had two men drinking together because they could be gay. So it was always three. Never one, never two.
Every sportsman must decide on which sport to concentrate.
It caught on, particularly in the north, and lads, lager drinkers, used to want to be like George the Bear. He was their hero.
Hey, same again, barman.
There were loads of problems at the time with lager louts, smashing up trains and everything, and the government had to be seen to do something. So they took old George out, and he was banned from television because he incited these lager louts, apparently. So we replaced him with a hedgehog.
Although I say it myself, I'm very good at throwing dinner parties.
For over 30 years now, the makers of this after-dinner mint have been trying to tell us that even if our starter's a non-starter and the main course is a disaster, all will be well after the timely appearance of some wafer-thin chocolates.
And all that taste in a slim shape like this.
After 8 wafer-thin mints, luxury. Plain, unashamed luxury.
Originally, the car was called Ritmo, and in Europe it was called the Ritmo. And I thought, well, what music can I put with this? And my knowledge of classical music at that time was zilch. I remember something called Figaro, and I thought, well, Figaro sounds like Ritmo. And I listened to the track, and it said, you know, family car, family car, family car, la 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 la. I thought, oh, this is good. It was chaos in this factory because basically they lost, I think the commercial was quite expensive at that time, probably about £300,000, but they probably lost about 7 million in production because every 2 seconds we were having to stop the machines and the assembly line. It was this kind of massive queue.
Wherever you are, you hear him rattling the doorknob for his whiskers.
8 out of 10 voters said they'd prefer this ad at number 55.
Whiskers is definitely his favourite. If he could speak, I think he would say whiskers would be his first word.
Oh, you naughty girl. You're pouring draft lager down the sink again.
I'm not very bright, I guess.
Well, you know what the local stuff tastes like, sweetheart.
Ball salts and a tube of toothpaste.
It's a very intensive process making it, and 10 times longer, I have to say, than any other process I've ever worked with.
Guess what I bought for you?
The biggest thing since the Graf Zeppelin.
Right. You like that Hobson pills, don't you?
My spine turns to custard. I get goose pimply all over.
Right. I bet you like the blokes who drink it and all.
Oh, I wouldn't mind to wear glasses.
This could be your lucky day.
When people say, and Stanley Kubrick went for 45 takes, that is nothing.
Hi, Wally. I just bought this Holston pills. Look at that label.
Well, I know you're dying to read it. Go ahead.
Okay. Funny, that doesn't actually tell you that most of the sugar turns to alcohol. It becomes a bit of a nightmare. Once, rather elaborately, we had a stand-in for John Wayne, and I had to show him an opener which had been cunningly transferred.
Look, here's an opener.
We got to lunch, and the man standing in for John Wayne, and he comes in and sits down again after lunch, and we pick up to go on to the next shot, and the director says, "What's going on?" Richard says, "What's going on here?" And the costume and the makeup and the wig come in, because the man has they put the wig on back to front, with the parting the wrong way round. And the costume lady, the wigs lady, says, "No, this is impossible." They say, he didn't take the wig off for lunch. So they go back to the video and realise that it's not us, it's them. It's John Wayne's wig. Swaps across. The parting goes from one side to the other in different shots. And so the detailed work that they were doing, I mean, we literally spent longer shooting the Holston Pills commercials, and they probably spent shooting the entire film.
He's just not being himself, Doctor. Has he been getting enough fluids? Doesn't seem to be any sign of fever. Something's left its mark on him here. Oh, do you think it was a fox?
Bacardi Breezer. There's Latin spirit in everyone.
That's it for this part of the 100 Greatest TV Ads. But don't go away, we've got classics like these coming up after the break as we continue our countdown to that heavenly summit.
How much are these made for condoms? Do you want a flake in that, love? I love it.
Now for a good workout, Nick. Go!
If you see Fred, tell him. I think this is it.
Shut up. You know who.
No, look careful.
In the morning, saving for bread, sir, so that every mouth can be fed. Oh, the Israelite. Wife and my kids, get up and leave me. Darling, she said I was yours to receive. Oh, the Israelite.
Oh, honey, honey, give me my sugar puff bowl, and you got me wanting you.
I was working every year with Benny Hill. I mean, I was served at the office of a straight man. This is what the Honey Monster's mummy was, really. I was a straight man to a monster. And I was very willing to do it.
Where's the honey? I'm going to find honey. Where's the honey? Where's the honey? Going to get the honey. Honey.
The organisation had promotions schemes where they took a Honey Monster around supermarkets and shopping malls.
How do you know I was coming?
We had to take, eventually, bodyguards with us.
Where's the honey?
Because the Honey Monster had a peculiar effect on little boys of age between, say, 7 and 9 or 10. And, see, one had suddenly stopped and couldn't believe what he was seeing. And he'd belt towards you, charge like nobody's business, and hurl himself at the Honey Monster. One, in fact, stabbed it. He stuck a knife in him, but of course didn't hurt him, it didn't even touch him because he was well away from the outside of the skin, as it were.
You forgot to tell him about the honey, Mummy.
Some of you doubting Thomas.
What is it about ad men and white powder? No, it's not Charlie again. At number 52, it's Home Pride.
First, my associate will stand under this giant sieve filled with ordinary flour. See how slowly it falls through. Too coarse, too lumpy, not fine enough. But when I stand under the same sieve filled with home pride, need I say more? Home pride. The only flour that grades every grain, because graded grains make finer flour.
What makes Dulux a home's best friend? At number 51, it's those lovable hounds that have been with us now since 1964. Pity they don't actually do the painting, isn't it? That would be useful.
Lasts, and lasts, and lasts.
We're halfway through our top 100, and at number 50, it's this reassuringly expensive lager ad. Based on the film Jean de Florette, it features a carnation seller who has to sell a bunch to pay for his lunch. But that's nothing compared to the cost of a pint. It's getting like that in London, mind you.
You can't have stew for breakfast. You can't have porridge for tea. But we have Heinz beans any time, my brother John and me. We haven't had them yet today. There's something wrong, we said. Until we found the reason was we just got out of bed. We knew, because we're pajamas.
Don't be mean with the beans, Mum. Beans mean Heinz.
And all because the lady loves dairy tray.
When you think that just after the Second World War there was Philby and Burgess and Maclean and these scandals in British intelligence, they're all defecting to the Ruskies. And nowadays in intelligence circles the big scandal is that they all get drunk in tapas bars and, you know, leave the laptop behind with all the national secrets on it. But in the 70s, the scandal seemed to be that instead of getting on with, you know, espionage, they were chiefly delivering sort of mid-priced chocolates to this woman who must have lived in the mountain kingdom of Bhutan. If you look at her, you think, where does that woman live that she was only accessible by a combination of helicopter and jet ski and aquafoil and things like that?
Milk tray.
Excuse me.
Hello. Yes.
I want some cotton wool, please.
Of course. Will there be anything else?
Yeah. Have you got a packet of tissues, please?
Man-sized tissues. Is that all?
Mates are a new range of condoms. Like other condoms, they're reliable, but they're cheaper. She sells hundreds of packets. She's not embarrassed, so why should you be?
And a packet of Mates condoms, please.
Of course. Mr. Williams, how much are these Mates condoms?
Mates, you make love, they make sense.
You know when you find that you haven't got as much milk as you thought you had, what do you blame it on? The birds dipping their beak on the doorstep? The kids knocking it back on the quiet? Well, I'm told it's none of these things. I'm told it's the Humphreys. It seems that these Humphreys are elusive, shy thingies who devote their lives to drinking other people's Unigate milk, and they go to any lengths to get at it. In which case the answer to the Humphrey problem is simple. Order an extra pinter from your Unigate milkman. And while you're enjoying your milk as you relax or knit a rug, varnish the Renoir, watch your glass. That is, if you believe that there are such things as Humphreys.
Watch
I'm free about.
Who would I most like to have a one-to-one with? A man who inspired a generation. Martin Luther King.
The one-to-one ads have been really interesting because forget what they're trying to sell to you. They offer you a utopian moment, and culture generally is not very utopian at the moment. It's sour and it's cynical and it's knowing.
I just want to do God's will. I'd ask him how he coped with being seen as second class just because the color of his skin. And I've seen the promised land. And if there was one incident that drove him to become part of the civil rights movement.
The Ian Wright connection with Martin Luther King reminds you, without getting too solemn about it, how important American black civil rights politics is to British black people. But actually, above all, it allows you momentarily to connect across time.
Was he ever frightened of those who opposed him? And did he realize how much he frightened them? Most of all, if I could have a one-to-one with him, I'd ask him how he maintained his principle of peaceful protest. We've got some difficult days ahead. In the face of such provocation.
It conjures up connections that actually no other form at the moment on British television does. It's much more interesting than a lot of the history programs that go out.
I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land.
Who would you most like to have a one-to-one with? Our mobile phone service gets people talking.
There's that tiger. Long before the British were putting tropical fish in their tanks, Esso were trying to convince us to put something a little more dynamic in them. The tiger's been their corporate image for the last 40 years.
Put a tiger in our tanks, Esso Extra.
Ad number 43, we're led to believe that surfers actually wear aftershave. And I thought they all lived on a beach in Cornwall and wouldn't even recognize a bar of soap if it washed up on the shore.
Old Spice. The classic fragrance. The mark of a man.
Everyone is going through changes, and no one knows what's going on. And everybody changes places, but the world still carries on. Love must always change to sorrow, and everyone must play the game. It's here today and gone tomorrow, but the world goes on the same.
It's very odd. I don't even know your name, but after this one Campari and soda, I feel I almost know you. May I freshen your glass? Soda, of course.
No, lemonade.
Campari and lemonade.
Yeah, nice colour, isn't it?
Campari, with soda, with lemonade, with tonic, but always with pleasure.
Were you truly wafted here from paradise?
No, Luton Airport. People then used to assume that when they met me I'd be stupid and dim and daft, and, or maybe I am. I'm not sure, but that wasn't how I did the commercial. I did it that you know, this is some bloke who's giving some awful chat-up line.
Were you truly wafted here from paradise?
And she just goes, no, Luton Airport.
It's all right being China, my heart turns to jelly. They even think that I'm the girl, the one that's on the telly.
I was being brought it to sign all the time. People come out and say, oh, would you sign your record? Would you sign your record? I said, I'll sign it, but it's not my record. And I think it was probably remiss of the people who did it not to come and offer it and do it, because I think we might well have had a hit.
Luton Airport,
Tetley, tetley, flavor, lovely as can be. Tetley make tea bags, Tetley make tea bags, make tea.
This is just like the dances at home. girls had to dance with each other back there too, while the blokes nipped out for a drop of the amber nectar. Screw! There's a bloke down here with no strides on.
Fosters, the Australian for lager.
And now, at number 38, Blade Runner director Ridley Scott meets George Orwell in this blockbuster for Apple computers.
We are one people, with one will, one resolve, one cause. Our enemies shall talk themselves to death, and we will bury them with their own confusion. We shall prevail.
On January 24th, Apple Computer will introduce Macintosh. And you'll see why 1984 won't be like 1984.
Rise, Turkish delight.
Chocolate is seen as the next best thing to sex by most women. In fact, most women prefer it to sex, I think, probably. The whole point about chocolate was it's a very sort of luscious and seductive and rewarding thing. And Turkish delight was just the ultimate expression of that.
Rise.
But it was just executed in a very forthright way, which at the time was, you know, almost risque.
Rise, Turkish delight.
Fry's Turkish Delight goes back to the late 50s and still is around. And it was based originally, I think still is to a certain extent, on the big silent film star called Rudolph Valentino. It almost wrote itself, really, sort of Fry's Turkish Delight. There you are. And now we're in a Turkish harem.
Fry's Turkish Delight, full of Eastern promise.
Everyone's a full-time nutcase.
If only it could help improve my singing!
For healthy recreation, what a combination. Companies, fruit and nut.
We make these up as we go along, you know.
Any time, any place, anywhere.
Any time was a Saturday afternoon. Any place was in Derby, where my mother happened to live, and I was sitting in her tiny little sitting room in her two-up, two-down council house with a bit of paper in front of me and her asking me, did I want any more tea, love? So she was not about to serve me a martini. The most we ever get was sweet sherry. But anyway, she was very, very pleased that it all came out of then, told all her friends, you know, you wrote it here, you know, I wrote it here.
The right one, the right one, that's my dream.
I hope you don't think I'm trying to pick you up or anything. As a matter of fact, normally I find it quite difficult to talk to girls, but I bought you this Pepsi and came over to try to get to know you because, well, you look like the kind of girl I could talk to.
Jeg kan ikke forstå, hvad du siger. Du må tale noget langsommere. Jeg lærte engelsk i skolen, men det var
Remember the beer we used to get in the old days, Mark? Oh, now that had a sound with it. Aye. Look at this London book they give you now. I wouldn't watch bicycle clips in it.
There was a programme called I Didn't Know You Cared, which was running on BBC One, I think.
We're not talking about strong drink, we're talking about London beer.
I love the humour in that, this sort of flat Yorkshire humour, which appealed very much to Southerners. So, influenced by that, I kind of had an Andy Capp figure. There's a cartoon strip, Andy Capp. He's a man who sees life in terms of beer.
Fancy a drop of John Smith's?
We saw about 100 dogs, but the one we chose, which was a Jack Russell called Tonto, or we called him Tonto, was wonderful. He wasn't trained or anything, but he just made you laugh just to look at him. And on the day, of course, he didn't have to do much because it was all happening behind the counter. And when Tonto jumps up in the air, we had 4 men in a blanket and tossed him up in the air. And when the back legs come up, that's a stuffed dog with levers. There was a guy pulling the levers, so that the legs went like that. But cut into the sequence, you wouldn't know. It looks like Tonto.
Like your new dog art, right? Here, boy. Up, up. Down.
do much, does he?
Fancy a drop of John Smith's? He just needs the right motivation.
John Smith's Bitter, a tough act to follow.
We put Duracell into one toy, ordinary SP batteries into the others. After a few hours of continual use, the ordinary batteries have played out, but Duracell keeps going and going and going, lasting up to 6 times longer.
Hello. I'm sorry to bother you, but I'm having a dinner party and I've run out of coffee.
Come in.
Thank you.
Will Gold Blend be too good for your guests?
Oh, I think they could get used to it.
I remember the response to the first one when it came out. And I remember that being just surprising and surprisingly good, that people did respond to it. I remember going to a party that was full of actors and actors coming up and saying, what a wonderful commercial you just did.
Well, now, I think you know everyone, except...
We've already met.
We share the same taste in coffee.
I did an interview with a newspaper, and I think we had lunch, and then she asked if I wanted a cup of coffee, and I said, no, I didn't. I don't really drink coffee. And she completely went wild, and it was the headline the next day. And then everyone was on the phone to me, Sharon doesn't drink coffee.
We were supposed to be in New York.
I didn't like the coffee.
It was nice. It was nice to kiss Tony. We made sure our noses didn't knock. I also always felt they should continue the campaign with an elderly couple. I'd love to see a 65-year-old couple with exactly that level of romance. I don't know.
Welcome again to the nation's favourite TV ads. And behind each ad, a human face. Yes, it's important to remember that even people in advertising are almost human too. And some of them quite famous. Salman Rushdie gave us cream cakes, naughty but nice. Fay Weldon went to work on an egg. And was it not Freud who said, Henry loves his minced morsels? Puts all that stuff about dreams into perspective, doesn't it?
Have a break. Have a Kit Kat.
The water in Mallorca doesn't taste like what it ought to.
No. The water in Majorca don't taste like what it ought to.
I like the Heineken ads, not least because they address, in a very funny way, the whole issue of social class, which of course is a staple of television. The royal family, Coronation Street, wherever you are on television, there's real authenticity.
Majorca!
Mallorca?
Majorca!
Mallorca?
It starts with the Pygmalion idea, My Fair Lady, you know, but instead of having, as it were, the educated man and the other uneducated woman, it turns it on its head.
Hi, Dale, any danger of some refreshment in here?
It's working with expectations that you know, and it's playing with them.
The water in Majorca...
What's that?
Don't taste like what it oughta. Gosh. The water in Majorca don't taste like what it oughta.
She's cracked it. She's only cracked it.
You're absolutely wrong.
Heineken refreshes the parts what other beers cannot reach.
Last stop on round was old Ma Peggotty's place. 'Twas like taking bread to top of the world. 'Twas a grand ride back though. Our new baker would have kettle on, and doorsteps of hot Hovis ready. That's all meal Hovis, he'd say. Get it inside you, lad. Does you good, that ill, says he. I've never seen an appetite like it.
Hovis. Bread with a tradition of quality. It's as good today as it's always been.
It's the Milky Bar Kid.
The Milky Bar Kid is strong and tough, and only the best is good enough.
The Milky Bars are on me.
The creamiest milk, the whitest bar.
The Milky Bars are on me.
The goodies that's in Milky Bar.
No, the Milky Bars are on me.
It's the Milky Bar Kid.
We lived in Notting Hill Gate at the time, and I looked up and there was a poster, and it was the Milky Bar poster, and I was on it. And I suddenly realised, hey, this is something. I'm on this poster. And kids started saying, you're the Milky Bar Kid. We recognise you.
The Milky Bars are on me.
I had national health glasses on, and until then, I would imagine most of the children that were on television were absolutely perfect. But the idea of having someone, the Milky Bar Kid, who is all, powerful, can do anything, and he wears glasses, was absolutely brilliant.
It's the Milky Bar Kid.
I couldn't get on with the smell of it. I just didn't like white chocolate, and it was like cut, and then I'd spit it into a cup.
The goodness that's in Milky Bar.
The Milky Bars are on me.
They gave me boxes and boxes of Milky Bar, boxes of Nestle products. I was just dishing them out down my street, and I was the most popular kid in the street, I suppose.
Used to be Milky Bar Kid.
The first shoot was in Spain, and they didn't tell me that the horse couldn't speak English.
The Milky Bar Kid is strong and tough, and only the best is good enough.
It was a stunt horse as well, so it had a tendency of when I wanted it to do something, it would just sit down, or, try and roll over, play dead.
Milky Bars are creamy white. This ain't Milky Bar.
The Milky Bars are on us.
It's the Milky Bar Kid.
Problem, love. It's flake wrappers in the plug-on.
You can almost guess the age of someone by asking them which was their favourite flake commercial. Everyone has their particular favourite because it happened at a particularly, adolescent time of their life.
Only the crumbliest, flakiest chocolate tastes like chocolate never tasted before. Only the crumbliest, flakiest chocolate tastes like chocolate never tasted before.
It's considered very sexy ad. Just the whole scenario around it and the phallic shape of the chocolate. Well, what can you do with it? I mean, there's not much you can do with it. I got into a lot of trouble. This I only found out when the commercial came out, because when I bit it, I put my tongue on it, which was a no-no. But I didn't, I just did what came naturally to me. I ate, I think it was about 40 of them, and I felt very sick over the period of 2-3 days. I got very sick.
The way that the flake crumbles is very important as well, and very significant. It has to crumble. Brushing of the flakes off the lip. Absolutely essential. It appears in most flake commercials. So many legends and fables surround these films, but from what I can gather, the idea of the lizard or the gecko on the telephone came from the lighting cameraman who said, why don't we add this touch of exotica? And it came to represent a lot more than that. Women said, yep, lizard, we like lizard on phone, and we're not going to tell you why.
The lizard wasn't there, unfortunately, because I rather like lizards.
The whole idea of loading a flake film with symbolism is quite a good fun thing as well.
Cadbury's Flake, the crumbliest, flakiest milk chocolate in the world.
So there's going to be a few of you out shearing this time, then?
About 40, I'd reckon.
Something for the ladies?
Oh, yeah. 2 bottles of sweet cherry, mate. Looks like we've overdone it with the sherry.
Yeah.
Australians wouldn't give a Castlemaine 4X for anything else.
The clock strikes 4. In millions of English homes, that means it's tea time. Tea time with its gleaming silver and tinkling teacups. What a happy time it is.
Strangely, I knew the ads because as a young man, I'd been a tea boy on them.
Is also the favorite.
Peter Sellers did the voice-over for
No
that.
matter how elegant the manners or charming the company.
I was sitting on a plane. I was coming back from a Venice festival, and a bit of turbulence. A guy spilled a glass of red wine over my wife, and he was really, distraught about it. And we got talking together. I didn't know him before. He was an agency producer. And he'd been telling me that he was trying to figure out how to do a chimp campaign that he was working on for Brook Bond. And they'd made them in the past. They'd always been chimps with a lot of antics, doing whatever happened, and soundtracks put to them after the event. But he'd got in his mind a new direction to go in. We started kicking ideas around, and I'd seen the Laurel and Hardy piano moving film on television the night before, where they're shifting that piano in LA. And he'd been talking about the way that he wanted to get a sort of a carry-on atmosphere without the innuendo.
Comment ça va? Avez-vous une copa?
They're wider than a human being. They have longer arms, obviously, but they're wider. So I designed all the sets with the doors slightly wider than a human scale-down door. So the doors and the pianos and everything else were a different scale. It was a trick, but it was a good trick,
I suddenly realized that I'd got a storyboard, and I'd got a script, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I knew who wanted to voice them, and I suddenly was faced with some wild animals that I couldn't talk to. They wanted to please the trainers, and maybe for a little orange juice or a sweetie or a thank you or a kiss or a cuddle, they would do exactly what the trainers wanted. But they didn't always look in the right direction when they did it. And so standing back observing this, I thought, my God, what have I taken on?
Get in the hang of it. Mind the banisters, son.
Oh, I can't hold it, Dad.
Don't worry, son. I shifted more pianos than you've had hot dinners.
Cream, Mr. Shifter. Like refreshment.
Thank you most kindly, madam.
And we taught this chimp to thump the piano and play it, and he loved it, loved this piano. But when we got to move it up the staircase, I said to David, you've got to take the innards out of the piano. We can't use this piano anymore that he's trained on because it's going to be too heavy. So we stripped this whole thing. We now built the piano, looks exactly to him like the one he's practiced on, but it now has no sound. And what happened was, we come the day of the shoot, he didn't want to play it anymore. So what we had to do, we had to shoot the scene on the stairs with the piano with no innards and replace the original piano for the end scene because he wouldn't play it.
Dad, do you know the piano's on my foot?
You hum it, son. I'll play it.
Just one cornetto.
At number 23, it's The Menace from Venice, the singing, stealing gondolier, whose voice was provided by Renee of Renee and Renata fame. No, bet you didn't know that.
Katie speaking. Philip's trying to read his paper, but he can smell the oxo-jack potatoes I'm cooking. A good, rich smell's half the secret of cooking, isn't it? Pretty tasty, I'd say.
Oxo during the war was used as a beverage, and it was a fairly cheap thing to have. But the idea of slightly upmarketing it mattered to Oxo.
Clever girl.
You see, the advertisement's right. Oxo gives a meal man appeal.
I think they felt that if they could find a young housewife with a young family, young husband first of all, and then gradually introduce a family, that it would make it more acceptable in everybody's kitchen as a way of cooking.
Grab up, fellas. This should really warm them up.
Katie became a very real character to the viewers, and I was very often asked on television to do interviews. Well, eventually they realised that you couldn't really keep up this pretense that I really wasn't actually Katie. But it did for many years, they wanted this to continue. The fact that I was Katie, and then there really was a husband, and there really was a little boy, David.
All right, then. Run along and get your shoes.
The point about the whole OXO family, and it's called the OXO family, which is important because it really is a kind of social history of the family from the 50s to the 90s, in that what you get is, at first, it's very much about male-female relations, male-female space, in which the female is looking for man appeal and male approval.
Clever girl.
Later, she seems to be more in control and more sexy, in fact. But of course, at the same time, she's got to use OXO to seduce her man. Later, the family goes to America to develop the story partially. And there it's interesting that Katie is more empowered because she's allowed to make a speech.
I hope it'll be all right. I'm a little anxious about giving hamburgers to America.
Okay, we're going to have that one, right?
Now you're all ready to barbecue.
Hey,
well,
you went to
Well, thank you for making our first few months in America such fun.
I was very surprised when they finally stopped it. Although I'm now looking back, I realise that perhaps then that kind of family was a bit outdated.
At number 21, it's a naff classic. It may look and sound like an outtake from Dallas or Dynasty, but this ambassador's party is really an ad for luxury chocolates, and probably dubbed differently for every single country in the Western world. How do they get the chocolates to stand up like that?
A sign of good taste.
Tonight you're mine completely.
The concept was the dog, the cat and the mouse were in a room in front of a fire. It should be like a love story between the three animals. I have this thing about film making that children and animals are the best thing, because a child cannot act and an animal cannot act. You're documenting unpredictable realities, well, because you don't know what they're going to do next. And that is, you know, that is what it's all about. I told the animal trainers what I wanted the mouse to do and where I wanted to go, and they got the urine of the mouse or something like that, and they laid a little track of it, and it kind of followed it. It was a sort of Mickey Mouse meets Hannibal Lecter. It kind of followed the sense, and then I just put the dog and the cat together and kept doing it until the mouse just happened to go there. You know, now and again someone had to dive in and go like that, but I kind of knew that you'd get it. When I was filming them, I noticed that the cat sniffed the dog for just a beat, and I noticed as I was filming, and this is, you know, one of the advantages of filming your own stuff, because you really get things immediately and you feel things immediately. And when I noticed that the cats sniffed the mouse just for a beat, so I thought, right, I'll turn that into a kiss.
But will you love me tomorrow?
In fact, the only problem we had were with the people that owned the mouse and the person that owned the cat and the person that owned the dog, and they were all squabbling behind the scenes about, you know, about how much they were getting paid, and just because you know yours is a dog, what does that necessarily mean you should get more than me and my mouse? Because actually my mouse is probably just as important to the story as well. I mean, but the animals got on great.
Tonight you're mine completely. You give me your love so sweetly. Tonight the light of love is in your eyes.
simply like new Andrex because it's beautifully soft.
Those puppies have got a sick sense of humour. Nevertheless, welcome back to our celebration of advertising. A profession which George Orwell described as the rattling of a stick inside a swill bucket. Or was that a bargain bucket? Anyway, if, like me, you like a lot of chocolate on your biscuit, join our club, which tonight is proudly debating some exceedingly good ads. The 100 best, in fact.
The Andrex ads are a real testament to the extraordinary things that British people will find cute. Because if you look at the raw materials of the advert, it doesn't really speak to me of cute. You know, it's got, well, toilet roll is heavily featured, bog roll, whose normal associations are with 70s football hooliganism and rather unpleasant bodily functions.
But there's another reason for liking new Andrex.
It's got clearly a mad dog in it as well, who's become entangled in bog roll, knocking over some priceless family heirlooms. And everyone's delighted.
New Andrex. It goes a long, long way.
It was in a studio in Notting Hill. As I was being made up, I had this overwhelming nausea come over me, and I was sick for most of the day.
Stale smells up here often come from down there in your carpet.
Every time I went off set, I was being ill. I was not very well at all. So if I look a bit manic in the advert, that's why.
It's all you have to do.
I was not very well, and leaping about up and down didn't actually make me feel any better.
Do the shake and back and put the freshness back. Do the shake and back and put the freshness back.
The shake and back advertisement is bad, and I think everybody would agree with this, and probably not the people who made it or paid for it would agree with it, but I think most of the viewers would agree with it. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to acquire cult status, and this very often can happen. Something can become so bad that it becomes good again in some bizarre way.
It's fantastic. And again, it's slagged off by the business and people saying, oh, it's so bad it's good. You get all that silliness again. But name me two other famous carpet cleaners.
When your carpet smells fresh, your room does too. Every time you vacuum, remember what to do.
The most difficult shot, I suppose, was the actual sprinkling of the powder on the floor. There were 3 holes in it. Now, in order to get this wonderful zigzag, if you just shake it backwards and forwards, sort of sideways, it doesn't work. You have to go up and down as well. So you have to do the dance. Otherwise, you don't get the powder out in the right way.
She's definitely a dirty woman. You know what I mean? With all her skirts and her flicks, and she's doing all that on the carpet. And I just think that she's just hiding the evidence of a suburban gangbang before her poor rep husband Roger comes home to his lovely wife and his semi.
Do the shake and back and put the freshness back. Do the shake and back and put the freshness back. When your carpet smells fresh, your room does too. Every time you vacuum, remember what to do. Do the shake and back and put the freshness back.
Your best bet for a fuller flavour.
Carling Black Label.
I'd like to buy the world a home and furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honey bees and snow white turtle doves.
I was working in Italy as a nanny, and I was sitting in a cafe, and somebody came up and asked me if I'd like to be part of an advert. I had no idea what it was about till, I think it was about a week later. Then I had to go to a hotel and learn a song for 3 hours, and I can't hardly sing a note, so 3 hours of listening to a tape and then doing a song. And then the next day we went to the pony club in Italy and had to stand on boxes. I think there were 4 of us, and they filmed us singing I'd Like to Teach the World to Sing.
I'd like to teach the world to sing. Sing with me. Perfect harmony. Perfect harmony. I'd like to ride the world and keep it company.
I had no conception of what the rest of the advert was like. I didn't even know there was a huge crown scene, there was multinationals. I didn't know anything. I mean, it was just a day of work, really, for some extra cash to go travelling.
To buy the world a coat and keep it company. It's the real thing. It's what the world wants today. It's the real thing.
Football, football, football. We get nothing but football, morning, noon and night.
Shut up.
Parklife advert was filmed on Hackney Marshes, because Hackney Marshes is a very famous area where people play Sunday League football and have for years and years. We foolishly try to keep the whole thing a secret, you know. And then, of course, within, I don't know, by the second morning, there was photographs all over the back of the Daily Mirror. And kids were coming from everywhere. Eric Cantona gets out of his trailer, you know, and he walks into this crowd dressed in a Pub 11 football shirt and lines up next to these roofers and postmen. Mr. David Seaman, he turned up, he was there for about an hour, just turned up and palmed the ball over the crossbar and left. Ian Wright got the most kind of affection, had the most affection from the players, the other player, the non-professional. The thing that surprised me, they were just completely generous with everybody.
Have an Eric, boys. Confidence is a preference for the habitual voyeur of what is known as. A morning suit can be avoided if you take a route straight through what is known as. John's got brewer's fruit, he gets intimidated by the dirty pigeons. They love a bit of him. Who's that gut lord marching? You should cut down on your pork life, mate. Get some exercise.
All the people, so many people,
From there, you're going with the fight. You're going with the fight. Why have you done that? Because you ain't
These guys would go home that night and say, I play with Ian Wright today, or I play with Eric Cantona today. I passed the ball to Eric Cantona.
Anthony? Oh, congratulations on your exam results.
Grandma, I failed.
You failed? What do you mean you failed?
I mean I failed. Maths, English, physics, geography, German, woodwork, art. I failed.
You didn't pass anything?
Pottery.
Pottery? Very useful. Anthony, people will always need plates. Anything else?
And sociology.
An ology? He gets an ology and he says he's failed. You get an ology, you're a scientist.
Whether it's well done or hard luck, a phone call says a lot.
The most brilliant boys, the teachers who were wrong, you know, they can't mark. A lot of them can't see.
Hello. I wonder if you can help me. I'm looking for a book called Fly Fishing by J.R. Hart. It is a joke. Oh, no. No, I've seen it advertised on television. Fly Fishing by J.R. Hart. It must be very popular, because the chap in the advert couldn't find it anywhere.
My name? Oh, yes. It's J.R. Hartley.
I don't suppose you have a copy of Fly Fishing by J.R. Hartley. It is rather old.
So much advertising is punch, 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 and noise, music that's unnecessary, loud music that's unnecessary. And J.R. Hartley always came over as a lovely, quiet pause in it all, you know.
I don't suppose you have a copy of Fly Fishing by J.R. Hartley. It is rather old. It's by J.R. Hartley.
I pictured this gentle old boy, an author. He'd written a book and probably loaned his master copy to a friend.
There's still a few more to try.
Good old yellow pages. We don't just help with the nasty things in life, like a blocked drain. We're there for the nice things, too.
You do? Oh, that's wonderful. Can you keep it for me? My name, oh yes, it's J.R. Hartley.
It was made in 1983 and ran for 8 years before a wily publisher thought that this chap's going out so often, there's money in there, he's becoming a national figure almost. Best wishes, J.R. Hartley. As one of the newspapers at the time said, J.R. Hartley's biggest catch has been the public's imagination. And that's how you can put it, I suppose.
Right. Let's see what sort of swing you've got.
I really feel he's taken me over. Honestly, I feel more J.R. Hartley than I do Norman Lumsden these days.
I think I'm going to enjoy this.
Papa?
If you watch a lot of French movies, as I have, they're all structured around father and daughter relationships. So at one level, this comes in as one strand of French cinema history. But what's really smart about it, and I do think it's smart in some ways, although it wants to make me upchuck in others, is that actually it's not discrete. You know, like Dickens learnt to, as it were, live across time, so you got a story going across 2 years. This ad develops.
Well, now you've found it, because while the Clio is certainly small, it's perfectly formed.
Foreigners can be presented on screen providing they match up to the stereotypic image we have of that particular country. Well, everybody in this country knows that French people are hopelessly romantic, amazingly sexy, fantastically virile and potent. All the girls are beautiful and all the men are handsome, all the fathers are distinguished. And this very much plays on these stereotypic roles.
Nicole?
Papa? I hated those people for some reason. They seemed so self-obsessed and French, I suppose. And it was just not... Did they sell Clio cars? Perhaps they did. I hope they did, but it just seemed inappropriate. I didn't think anyone would make a sort of romantic getaway in a Clio Renault car. Too small.
The English, even more than the British, have had a love-hate relationship with the French, which means that the Clio ad played only in Britain, because this is the only place it would make sense. It's difficult not to admire their chic and to loathe it simultaneously. And the best ads, like the best culture, play with us. They seduce us and then undermine, as it were, our expectations. And I think the Clio ad does that for the English, you know, who are only separated from France by 21 miles, but actually, emotionally, by a very long distance indeed.
Nicole! Nicole!
Bob?
Papa?
Nicole.
Nicole! Bob! Yes!
Just come to fix your grip, Miss Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Rigsby. I don't know what I'd do without you.
Leonard was a great close friend, and he said to me one day, "What's it like getting this you-know-who? How do you live with it? What's it really like?" I said, "It's like a mortgage, education fees for 3 children, a home for my ex-wife, a home for my parents, and a home for myself. That's what it's actually like."
You look very bewitching tonight, Mr. Jones.
Oh, Mr. Rigsby.
I said, "It might, if you're not very careful. It could happen to you one of these days."
Io Cinzano Bianco, signora.
I think the original idea
was trying to do sort of humorous spoofs on what was the Beautiful People type commercial which Martini was famous for. The original scripts were ludicrous. They had Sean Connery and Woody Allen. None of those people would have ever done a commercial. So we got rid of those scripts when they were given to me. And Leonard Rossiter was involved, and I remember going round to his house, and we kind of agreed that actually the script was absolute rubbish.
Boring. I'm sorry.
So Leonard said, oh, what I'd like to do is the old musical joke. And we said, what's that? So he picked up his cup of tea that we were sitting there in his living room, and he looked at his watch, and he turned the cup, and he said, you know, that joke. So he said, oh, that's a very good joke, particularly if it happened to be Joan Collins that you were spilling it on.
Can't you just smell those Italian wines, suffused with herbs and spices from 4 continents? I'm being boring. I'm sorry. Sorry. Getting your head down, sweetie. Jolly good idea.
Leonard Rossiter, from the theatre, difficult. He felt he was the main man. He was the artist of the two, you know, and he would choreograph himself. I know the previous director had difficulty with him, and I tried to spend some time with him just to diffuse what I thought might be some awkward situations. And there was. I mean, in he said, I'm doing this movement and that movement, and it'd be nice for the camera to see this and see that. And I said, well, Leonard, I'm going to cut to your foot going in the tiger skin on the floor. And he said, oh, I don't want to see, but they won't see what I'm doing with the rest of me.
Melissa! Mr. Yakitori and his aides?
Yokoso.
No, sweetie, Japanese.
Joan was thoroughly professional, and she got the idea straight away. I mean, she was very intelligent, and absolutely unpretentious.
We just ordered our traditional drink.
There was great respect between them. They'd worked together wonderfully well, and this was a successful campaign. But he used to refer to her as the prop.
Oh! I think they like you, Marissa.
It worked. Boy, did it work. Because there was a period of time when the commercials were by far and away the most interesting thing you could see that evening on television. They were infinitely more entertaining than the programs in those days.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Getting your head down, sweetie. Jolly good idea.
Cinzano Bianco.
So, we're almost there. We've put on our red braces, we've placed our product, we ran it up the flagpole, and you saluted. In short, the men from Del Monte have all said yes.
Doors opening. Going up.
Now it's time to tap it, unwrap it, and reveal the creme de la creme, the top of the pot noodle. Those 10 unforgettable ads created by men and women who must have had 3 shredded wheat on the day of their creation.
I think things go through certain waves, you know, like whereas in the 70s you have like blaxploitation, and like now I guess you could argue there's a queersploitation going on. At the time the Impulse ad came out, I think there was a real feeling in the society at that time that, you know, gay was more acceptable, it was more mainstream, it was just on the cusp of film, like TV shows like Queer as Folk about to come out. There were a few stereotypes that were thrown in as cutaways to the ad, like you'd see Quentin Crisp sat there, you know, and baby dog with leather on it. But I think the positives far outweigh the negatives.
more deadly than the mail. Welcome home. Welcome. Come on in and close the door.
When I first got approached by Walkers, I was still trying to play football in Japan, albeit spasmodically, I have to say. And my agent got hold of me and said that when you come home, they want to do a special ad to sort of celebrate the fact. I was outside the station, Leicester Station, shooting this bit with a newspaper vendor. And there were a lot of people watching, as you can imagine, in the town centre. And a little old lady comes over to me and she goes, she taps me on the shoulder, she says, are you Gary Lineker? I said, yeah, that's right. She says, well, I thought it was. He said, what's going on here? Are they expecting anybody special?
The twist we gave it was he was known as Mr. Nice Guy because he'd never been booked in all his career. We thought it'd be interesting to turn him into a nasty guy who pinched crisps because they were so irresistible.
Welcome home. Welcome. Come on in and close the door.
Well, Walkers are part of PepsiCo, obviously an American company, and I think when they first went to them with the idea, I think A, they didn't know who the hell I was, and B, they thought, how can you do this thing where he's actually taking a chance? Chris, at the end, this is an incredibly cruel ending.
They said, you can't have an English sporting hero being a thief, come on. And we said, oh, everyone will know it's a joke, you don't have to worry about it. Oh, you can't do that. And they tried to force us to shoot the ending where he gives the crisps back to the kid. But we ignored that.
There's no more Mr. Nice Guy.
They still can't understand how we did it and how English people don't go against him because he pinches kids' crisps.
I've done ads with the Spice Girls. I did one with Ulrika Johnson, which was particularly tough, having to lie on top of her for half a day. And Gaza, likewise, we did one with him. I remember they put this contraption in where it came over his ears and right under his eyes and it spurted out the water. Well, when they initially did it and we started, we just couldn't do it for laughing. It was just hilarious.
He's very natural, and he's not an actor, but gradually he's got more and more confident, and, he's as good as any actor that I work with now. He's just very, and he knows exactly what to do, he knows how to hold the crisp perfectly, and, and he won't be ever caught with a packet of Golden Wonder. You know that about Gary.
When we did those early Hamlet commercials, they were always the most fun things to do because there was no set of rules. In the end, you just took what was the most ridiculous or wonderful situation, and then there was suddenly the product at the end of it.
Happiness is a cigar called Hamlet.
But I think that, we were using humour and in a way that no one else was, and so the commercials stuck out.
It is that thing of when something goes wrong, this was satisfaction, this would get you over the hump. Always the best campaign ideas in advertising is when it's very simple and where you can put it into any area. You can borrow from any area, whether it's films, theatre, real life.
Happiness is a cigar called Hamlet, a mild cigar.
Don't start no talking. I could talk all night.
We went down to Wardour Street, to a cave in Wardour Street. So I took my son, Elvis Costello as he is now, who was then called Declan Patrick McManus.
Have you got yourself an occupation?
We were in a club, and obviously the idea was that there was no better drink than our White's lemonade to quench your thirst in this hot atmosphere. And we were dressed up in T-shirts with the band name on, which was The Thirst.
I'm a secret lemonade drinker. Our Whites, our Whites. I'm trying to give it up, but it's one of those nights. Our Whites, our Whites. Our White's lemonade.
I did more than one voice. I did the bit about the secret lemonade drinker, the Presley voice.
Our White's lemonade.
And when we rode out, I said to Declan, let's do it like the Beatles. So we did the Liverpool noise, because both of us have got a Liverpool background. And we did the, all whites, all whites, all whites, all whites.
All whites, all whites, all whites.
Even as a kid, I always used to like the idea of Our White's lemonade, because it seemed like so non-corporate compared to, say, Coca-Cola or, you know, McDonald's, which are these huge multinationals. Our White's lemonade, I never knew where that had come from. And who was Our White? And it always used to conjure up this idea of a bloke in his shed, you know, distilling it, while his wife would say, come on in now, Our White, your tea's ready.
I'm a secret lemonade drinker. Our Whites, our Whites. I'm trying to give it up, but it's one of those nights. Our Whites, our Whites, our White's lemonade. I'm a secret lemonade drinker. Our Whites, our Whites, our White's lemonade. Our Whites, our Whites, our Whites, our Whites.
The ad was running at a cinema, it prefixed a movie, and I hadn't seen it on the telly at that point, so I went to the cinema just to see the ad. Combined with the music, I mean, Marvin Gaye's heard it through the grapevine. It just all sort of came together, this very kind of hormonal, sexy, pubescent dream for me, really. And I mean, Nick Kamen was just sex on legs. Pair of jeans that you didn't really need, suddenly they became a must-have item. And yeah, I mean, I only wanted them because Nick Kamen wore them. There wasn't really life after Levi's for Nick Kamen because he broke the golden rule. He talks. Totally demystified him. You know, him running around singing this rather rubbish pop song did so little for me, and it was like, next!
See the look in your eyes, I know you're hurting inside. Let me try.
Soft, smooth, luxurious, the sensation of pure cream.
When the first ad came out, it was so different to any other ad that you saw on telly. The shock element at the end, I remember thinking what great ads they were.
By heck, you smell gorgeous tonight, pal.
It was a very sophisticated way of showing a northern drink, and it worked. I was modelling when I was first asked to be in the Boddington's advert. I've been modelling for about 7, 8 years, I think it's been, and it was just like any other day. It was a request, a casting for a commercial, and I was up north doing a catalogue shoot, and I got the facts of the script for the ad, and I read it, and I just thought, this is so perfect for me.
The body is new.
It was a spoof on a Calvin Klein commercial. It was shot in Malibu in a huge house. And basically I had half-naked men walking around all day, these gorgeous models, and me in a white flowy dress. It was like a dream come true, and I just had a marvellous time. If you think that's strong, Chuck, try lifting one of these. Hey, Tarquil, your trolleys aren't right way round. And I knew something would happen to me once the advert was on, because they've been so high profile in the past. But I didn't quite know what, and I thought, you know, maybe it'll just be a few more modelling jobs. I didn't think for a second I would end up doing television.
Total amount of coffee drunk by the Big Breakfast team this year.
In big cups?
Yeah, in cups. It's done in, no, it's done in pints.
It's done in pints.
Probably easier for you to work out. I know you're involved.
Do you want a flake in that, love?
Sound running when you're ready.
At 4, an example of a programme that started off on Channel 4 before being turned into a series of classic ads.
They're grotty and everything, but the Terrapins seem to get a good side. They've got a big waterfall, big pools to play around in. There's lots of them there. They looked really happy.
The agency wanted just one locked-off shot showing a character chatting to an interviewer, basically.
Oh, it's good to come back into a warm flat after you've just done a run, and it's always nice to come into somewhere warm if you've been freezing to death outside on a 10-mile slog.
They weren't scripted at all. We just went out and looked for people who might be suitable, who were just very chatty. So I went to this guy called Frank. He lived in Bristol for about 20 years, and he comes from Bolton, I think, and he hadn't changed one minute iota of his accent at all. And just recorded him in his flat.
They should be sort of fairly modern in design, and they've got to be easily turn off and honourable.
The family that actually owned the corner shop around just down the street from the studio, we made them into penguins.
Yes, they are easy to clean. They're just
wipe over, and it looks like new.
It looks good. And
Not like some of these other things, you know, that are just there to, you know, oh, this looks pretty in my kitchen. You know, it's there to do its job, and it does it well.
The only limitation was that they had to talk about electricity because everybody thought they were for gas, and that's perhaps the only failure of the adverts. People still refer to them as the gas adverts.
you know, having grown up in Brazil with a lot of fruits and in a good climate, the temperature is very important. I wouldn't be able to sit on my chair if I'm shivering and feeling damp. That's when the electrical heating comes into the picture. It's like the last piece of the jigsaw. Well, it is. It's very comfortable, affordable, comfortably affordable.
Hello, Tony. I think we might use a video replay here.
Super, Ralph. Let's do that.
Oh, yes, we could be in for a quintessential tango taste sensation here.
It was meant to be taking the mickey out of other ads that were on the TV at the time, like the coffee ads that were out there and stuff like that. You have a drink and you go, ooh, whoopee, and flowers bloom. And we decided to express this in a really OTT fashion.
Fire, yes!
It started with a punch in the mouth, you know, because we was trying to do it as kind of stupid and slapstick as possible. Then it moved to a kick up the arse for obvious reasons, and then for that it was still deemed as being too aggressive. So it went on to being sort of Morecambe and Wise-esque little tap on the cheeks.
Fire, yes!
The guy we used, he was like a Shakespearean actor. He was the one who made us laugh the most. We wanted someone who was obviously big and bold.
It's the way he moved as well. It was physically how he ran was just surreal.
It just illustrates the bite and buzz. Oh!
The guy that was being slapped, he was really good actually. Again, I thought he was a really good actor. And he was just the best at reacting to being hit. He never made a big deal out of it. A lot of the actors were like, oh God, I've been hit, you know, and he's just like, he just did it very cool and very kind of slightly dopey.
Let's look again.
It sparked a playground craze, and, you know, people used to go around sort of slapping each other saying, oh, you've been tangoed. And it was all very entertaining and great fun, and there was no problems until we got a phone call one day from a surgeon who said, look, I'm not, you know, the complaining type, but I thought you'd like to know that I did an operation on a child this morning with a perforated eardrum, and I was wheeling him into the operating theatre on the gurney and said to him, what happened to you then? And he said, I got tangoed, Gull. And, I mean, okay, it's funny, but we pulled the ad that afternoon. And what we did is changed it to the kiss. So instead, the genie rushed up and planted a kiss on the bloke instead, which worked just as well.
You know when you've been tangoed.
What's the good of a beautiful banger without out Chicken won't ring bells with a pile of something else if it's not out.
If an alien came from another planet and saw someone bothering to clean up a potato, peel it, boil it for 20 minutes, mash it all up, then put it on a plate, when they can just pour hot water on a powder and serve it, they think we were mad. And from that developed the script.
On your last trip, did you discover what the Earth people eat? They eat a great many of these. They peel them with their metal knives. Boil them for 20 of their minutes. Then they smash them all to bits. They are clearly a most primitive people.
We were building the sets up on 6-foot rostrums with 3 puppeteers per Martian underneath with all these calipers.
Captain, something strange has appeared on the Earth scanner. Let me observe.
They moved pretty crudely with levers that went down through a platform. And underneath this platform there were loads of blokes pulling levers which turned the head, lifted the arm or opened the mouth or swiveled the eyes around. It was all pretty crude, but it was part of their charm, I think, that they were crude.
After the day's labours, how nice to come home to the wife, a pair of slippers, and a plate of Cadbury's Smash.
The director at the time, Bob Brooks, was well known for being short-tempered, and he used to let fly at the Martians, saying, what the hell are you doing at the back? Will you pay attention?
All the puppets, the puppeteers, were taking the mick out of the direction, what have you, and the guy, and they had all these puppets lying on their bed, in their spaceship, all lying around, and they were sort of talking in American voices and doing jokes, which and they started to make them laugh. Yes, great, we should do that. And that's how it happened.
For mash, get smash.
Well, we had this little gimmick of having the S drop down to mash. For mash, get smash. And we wanted a jingle to get it in people's heads. So we went off to see Cliff Adams, who was top jingle writer at the time.
And he said the idea, he said, it's for mash, get smash. So do you think you can do anything musically? And I said, yes, I think so. I said, we could, for instance, I said, do something like...
Dang, 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 dang. It was perfect.
I said, no, John, that's not it. I was illustrating what we could do. And he said, no, I don't want any more. Just do that.
You know, in a millisecond, he'd done something which ran for 10 years. And he got money from it every time it played.
And then what better than to curl up satisfied in front of your favourite comedy programme?
And after peeling, boil for 20 minutes.
For mash, get smash.
Unlike the Duracell rabbit and the Goldblend couple, we've gone on and on and on for long enough now. In short, the end is nigh. I do hope you've enjoyed our starry odyssey, but if you're not completely satisfied, then do please return it in the original wrapper stating when and where you bought it. Remember, contents may settle during packaging, investments can go up and down, and that your home may be repossessed if you do not keep up repayments. For full details, see last week's TV Times. In the meantime, we leave you with an ad that you obviously thought was good for you. The TV commercial that polled more votes than any other in our top 100. A classic? I should say so.
I suppose it's the equivalent of filming an avalanche. To be in front of an avalanche as an avalanche is careering towards you. It's that sensation, I'm sure. I mean, what we want to do is create something which is kind of emotionally arresting and visually arresting, and having just something quite epic and quite extraordinary to happen on a TV screen.
He waits. That's what he does.
We were just kind of inquisitive about how the product worked, and we didn't really understand about the weight. So we kind of went through a few bars and we kind of looked at the way it did it, and we actually timed it. We worked out that it takes 119.5 seconds to pour a pint of Guinness, or to pour and then wait for it to settle. So then we thought, that's quite interesting. Good things come to those who wait. Just like you have to wait for a pint of Guinness, you have to wait for a wave.
We had umpteen experts on the end of phone lines telling us where the waves were expected and where various sets were going to come in and on what shore. So you'd sort of, it was unplannable as a shoot, really. You just had to be out there and wait until you knew where the surf was coming in that was going to be sizable enough to film. We didn't want the perfect face. We wanted people who looked like they'd genuinely wait for this extraordinary wave, and only they would know where it was going to come. The guy who stars in it, who's not really a very good surfer, he was very out of condition, which we liked. I mean, we found him under a palm tree on a beach, so we put him on 40-foot waves and he looked terrifying.
A real Polynesian surfer waiting for the most amazing wave of his life, and that's what it is. And then it becomes what's in his mind's eye. The horses become symbolic because they become the experience of riding a 60-foot wave and what it is in his head.
We needed to shoot the horses in a certain way that obviously worked with the image underneath. You'd have jumps set up against blue, and you'd have these white horses jumping repeatedly over these fences, and you'd set your camera and your lens at a certain position, and hopefully the two pieces would composite together.
He waits. That's what he does. And I tell you what, tick followed tock, followed tick, followed tock, followed tick. Ahab says, I don't care who you are, here's to your dream. The old sailors returned to the bar. Here's to you, Ahab! And the fat drummer hit the beat with all his heart. Here's to waiting.
And next week promises to be a star-studded event as we check out the 100 greatest movie stars. But tonight we're yet to see one of the greatest male recording artists. We're live in Berlin with Mr. Robbie Williams. Next.